Yo! Welcome to another episode of Gaming with your boy, Mr. C. And today I wanted to prime you for the next generation console in the streaming war, the the Amazon Luna. This guy right here. And lucky enough, I was able to be a part of the beta, and I've actually been lucky enough to be a part of Google Stadia and the xCloud since about day one. So how does the Amazon Luna stack up? Let's jump in. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Alright guys, off the rip, the Amazon Luna is a lot more accessible at launch than the Google Stadia and the Project xCloud were. However, keep in mind, a lot has changed in that year or so. Right now, the Amazon Luna is available on Fire Sticks, anything with a Google Chrome like your laptop, and even mobile devices. The difference here, in my opinion, is that I feel like Fire Stick's a lot more common than the Google devices. Now, as far as payment goes, what are we going to be paying for this bad boy? So if you have one of those previous mentioned devices, a laptop, Fire Stick, or mobile device, the Luna itself is free. All you really need is a controller, which you can purchase the $50 Luna controller, or you can use a Bluetooth controller like your Xbox One or PS4 DualShock. Outside of that, you have a subscription service of $6 a month. Now, this isn't like Xbox Live Gold where you get to play all these different games online. That's what you're paying for. No. This is more like the Game Pass or Netflix, where you're actually paying for the subscription to play these games. Now, there's a small caveat to this. Ubisoft's games are on there, but they're not free to play. You could pay the $15 a month for the Ubisoft app, and you get all of their games that you can play right off the rip, which actually isn't a bad deal considering I spent like $180 on Ubisoft games in 1 month last year. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs, and Immortals. So in comparison, it's not that bad, but keep in mind, a huge part of the library is Ubisoft games, as of right now. So you're looking at about $20 a month. Alright guys, as far as the controller goes on the Luna, that is it right there at $50. Not really a bad price for a controller. However, I did not purchase one as I did not deem it necessary, because I still have old Xbox One X controllers that I use. And they were pretty easy to connect to both my laptop, my mobile phone, and my Fire Stick by using just the Bluetooth, and it was actually very compatible. Now, this controller here does look a lot like this controller and the Stadia controller, so I would imagine it's a pretty good controller, but I think part of the charm here is the fact that the entry cost is so low. It doesn't cost anything but a subscription if you have this, and that's pretty awesome, right? So let's get into the UI. The UI was actually extremely bland. It kind of actually did remind me of the Google Stadia, as it had rows of games that you just kind of shift through based off of that category. Unlike the Stadia, there was no friend zone or profile zone. And the Stadia is awful at that as well, but the fact that Stadia at least tried, that is not here. One of the cool things about the Luna is its integration with Twitch. Even after you play a game, it will come up and show you Twitch players playing it. You can just click right on it and be in the room watching it. And I thought that was actually really cool and worthwhile. Now keep in mind, all of this is still in beta form. Alright guys, so on to the gameplay. What are we actually going to be doing here with the Luna? Because it's more than about controllers and UIs. It's actually about playing the games. And for the viewer's sake, I did sign up for the Ubisoft app because I wanted access to those hardware grinding, heavy hitting technical games like Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, and Immortals. I mean, all three were in contention for my game of the year last year for good reason. So I wanted to be able to show you guys those games. Now, first off, the games did not load nearly as fast as I thought they would, especially since everything is housed offsite and all I'm really doing is streaming the content. It certainly didn't load as fast as the Stadia and not nearly as quick as the PS5 or Series X. But keep in mind, the cost of admission is a lot lower than those consoles, as those are $500 a pop. As far as the graphics actually go, this does not at this moment support 4K, but it is coming. You have to have, I think it was 35 Mbps to actually use that content. So I am playing in 1080. The games did look good. I mean, as far as the actual graphics there, they did look good. They were just missing that fidelity, that pop that you get with playing on a console in the same room on that TV. And a lot of times I felt like I was almost ghosting. Like what was actually happening was like a millisecond behind, which left a lot of stuttering and kind of skipped motions. As far as the controls go, the controls were actually fine. I mean, it was happening at the same time I was pressing it, which is pretty amazing since I wasn't using their controller. It's just the graphics were always kind of behind. And I actually kind of just missed that smoothness. Now, one cool thing I did think when I was playing Super Hit the Ball Far baseball game is that it actually did show a picture of my Xbox One controller as if they knew. And that's awesome and scary at the same time. Alright guys, so on actually playing the devices, I did play it on 3 different devices in similar settings in my game room, if you will. I played it on my Amazon Fire Stick, on my LG C10. I also tried it on my mobile device. One thing I thought was weird about the mobile device, it didn't work on my Galaxy Fold 2, which is a new phone, but did work on my S10. Thought that was a little strange, but I did play it on the S10, and then finally I played it on my laptop, again, all on my GigaNet at home. The Fire Stick and the phone had similar experiences as far as the amount of graphical lag, if you will, and some of that ghosting and buffering issues, whereas the laptop seemed to handle that a lot better. One of the other things I did appreciate about the laptop is that it actually felt more responsive, which is great. The laptop was by far the premier experience of the 3, and one thing that I thought was interesting about that is I actually had that plugged into Ethernet. Now, the Stadia Google device actually comes in where you can plug it into the Ethernet, and most Fire Sticks do not have that. So I'm kind of thinking that's part of the issue. But all 3 devices were playable. Alright guys, overall, would I keep the Amazon Luna? Yeah, sure, why not? Would I keep that month-to-month subscription? Probably not. I just don't feel like there's enough to chew on there. Do I think that there's a future for the Google Stadia, the Amazon Luna, and the Project X Cloud? Absolutely, especially as 5G becomes more and more common and accessible with things like Starlink. My issue is I think Luna came late to the party with the smallest gift. I just don't think that they have enough of a library at that $6 a month. A bulk of their library was Ubisoft, effectively making this $20 a month. If they can build upon that library, that $6 library, and make it more like Game Pass or Netflix, yeah, I probably would be a player month to month. The bigger issue is that for that $20 a month, honestly, I would rather play my games in 4K with HDR, variable refresh rate, 120 frames per second, Dolby Atmos, and spend that $180 to own those games, to play it in their peak performance, versus with the ghosting and the lagging. Now, I do, again, think that there's a market for the Luna. I think if you're one of those people who don't want that entry-level cost, who don't want all the wires and the configurations and the updates, you just want the Amazon Fire plugged into the back of the TV, you forget about it, maybe it's built into your TV, you keep an Xbox controller in your junk drawer, that's probably for you. But I think for those who are more technically inclined and who are more hardcore gamers, I don't necessarily think it's for you, even at that low-end cost.
Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C.